Yes, gang, it's right. That's right. It's Poppy's other workshop.
Well, I'm pretty sure I got 5 seconds of. I'll have to break my one rule. There is no edit. Record or record not. I'll have to break that. Maybe. Uh, this is a media commentary. Yes, I'm back. If you saw my last video, it'll be 8 days when you finally see this one. Ago, I said, I'm back with a crash. And I talk about the car crash out front of my house and, other miscellanea. Well, landlord knows. Eventually it'll get fixed. I just finished binging the Edward James Almost Vintage Battlestar Galactica. I did it smart this time, since this is the first time I've watched it since it was live TV. I watched Caprica, then Battlestar. The Edward James Almost Vintage Battlestar Galactica have always been superior to the Lauren Green Vintage. In the Lauren Green Vintage, they did not respect the genre. That's why in one episode, Lauren Green goes to this planet and meets the devil. That's right. The devil. That is a lack of respect for the genre. And let's face it. God damn it. I wish they would shut up when I'm recording. I really do. Anyway. The Edward James Almost Vintage was realistic. Gory, dirty, unpleasant. In other words, realism. Now, as for realism, in another show, I've been watching the Yellowstone saga. I watched 1883 because that was a to the Yellowstone saga. And spoiler, if you don't want to hear it, go like this. When our young blonde female gets an arrow through her gut in the first minute, you know it's going to be a gut slammer of a series. And it was. And of course I watched 1923. That's Yellowstone Ranch. And, of course, Yellowstone. Now I'm watching Dutton Ranch. And, well, our heroes, the daughter of the last patriarch and her husband, the former ranch manager, foreman, whatever you want to call them, are married and they're in another location. They've already come across murder, violence, official corruption. Going to be a good show to watch. Yes, yes, yes. I hope they make many, many seasons of it. The Handmaid's Tale. If you haven't watched it, watch it. It's actually good. Just forget that it's a bunch of girls doing all the rebelling and that. Okay? And now I'm watching, if it comes back, I'm going to be watching more of The Testaments. That's the sequel series to Handmaid's Tale. So far gone through 2 seasons of it, and it's about to get intense. Secrets have been blown away. They've hit the fan. Now they're all over. It's a psychological drama. You'll have to think. I know it'll hurt, but do a little thinking. It's good for you. But not too much. Too much thinking can drive men insane. Okay. See the little logo here? It's TAL. TAL. These are good. This TAL brand. They're stainless steel. They actually got vacuum between the 2 layers. And this baby hold cold all day. Fill it with ice. Pour in the coffee. Cap it. 2 minutes later, it's cold, and all day long until drink it all. You heard the dog, right? That's why I tell him that the first Vietnamese family comes along and wants him, I'll sell. I know it's a stereotype, but it was sort of funny and shocking. The first episode of, it was a Vietnam War series, and our star was a Red Cross nurse? That or Donut Dolly. Those were the Red Cross girls. They'd be, yeah, what was she, USO? Anyway, she went downtown, all like 200-foot long dirt street huts. And she saw this puppy, and she bought it. And the old lady went behind the tent, and you hear, dead dog, comes out with a paper wrapped parcel. Good for stew. Yeah. So you'll have to forgive me on that one. Okay. And let me touch on a sad subject. Just recently, Harold, our host at Amateur Redneck Workshop, died. He was old. I think he's older than me. So, even unnatural causes would be natural at, advanced age. Anyway, rest in power, Redneck. You are missed. And then other people just stop posting. Kilroy, I saw Kilroy visiting Clark Easterling, doing some construction there. But he hasn't posted on his channel in forever. The first one to disappear was Fenner, Keith Fenner. I think that might have been because he got really politically outspoken. Didn't like the comments and went off to some pay service. Last I think I understand hearing. Might be wrong. Steve Summers stopped posting. It seemed pretty abrupt. I'd have to watch the last episode again to remind myself what he said about someone having a health issue. God, that's horrible thought. Anyway, who else? Oh, Advanced Innovation is at least on hiatus while he's moving location. Don't know if he's coming back. There was a channel out of Texas, a guy named Cox, C-O-X. He did low-level shade tree in a Quonset hut or a tin building, auto repair. He was doing good. Every week, the video, some junk piece of vehicle he found somewhere in Texas that needed some work. Then Stephen married his boyfriend at the Good of the Land festival. Bang! Gone! And Good of the Land was like 2 more videos, then gone. I don't know what inference to take on it. I mean, I think Google doesn't hate gay. I mean, more than half their customers are. Can't hate half your money source, can you? But things like marrying your boyfriend, and posting a video of it. I think it might have been even a live stream. Might be wrong on that one, but posting a video of it is not so good for business. Because even people who don't hate people with different sexual styles get squeamish about advertising if there's anything controversial. If you ever watched Mad Men, the episode where the young guy was saying that, no, the guy who became the director of the television continuity, right? So that, was it Maytag or was it Whirlpool? Had the agitator that went up and down. Anyway, they were advertising the quality of their agitator in their machine, and there was an episode of a TV show where the bad guy was referred to as an agitator. And in late 50s, early 60s, before they came up with the minute plan for advertising, Philip Morris owned the Lucy Show. Okay? The brand consciousness alert, warning, danger, danger. Next time you go to the store to buy a cola, if you liked Atlanta Holy Water, you know what I'm talking about. The beverage they used to originally contain cocaine. Yeah. They've changed it again. Remember in the 80s, there was New Coke. And within a month or two, there was Coca-Cola's stock going over here, going. I'm focused in really tight on me. That's probably why that's going. I was just sitting there. Anyway, I don't think you're going to find a jug of, what was it? Classic Coke? Yeah, Classic Coke. When they got rid of New Coke and Classic Coke, and it tasted right. Well, they've changed it again. Now it's original flavor. No, it is not. It seems like they've been outsourcing their syrup to whoever in China will make the cheapest cola syrup. So I'm not drinking Coca-Cola no more. And I call on you, if you actually liked Coca-Cola, why would you drink the shit they're wanting to sell you now? The only reason for drinking Coca-Cola is because of the flavor. I mean, you could have Pepsi if you don't mind the heavy taste of plastic. Pepsi has always had a plastic undertone in its flavor. Yeah. You got comments on Coke and Pepsi and formula changes? Please. Please comment. Please. I get lonely over here. Okay. Back to commentary. Cutting edge engineering in Australia just went to video every 2 weeks instead of every week. I understand the cost of everything's gone up. He has to actually make more money so he can survive and all that. So the video content suffers. I hope it doesn't suffer completely. I hope he could find some way, just turn a camera on, let it do live stream A day in the shop. That could be interesting. I believe I've been watching Curtis and Karen. I believe her name was Karen. I think he said her name was Karen. I believe I've been watching them since they started posting like 8 years ago. Is it that long? It doesn't seem that long, but anyway. Curtis used to not be able to express himself to the camera. I think it was camera shy. But his wife has prompted and talked him through it. You can tell that she's doing most of the camera work, as you can hear her exclamations of surprise, or if he opens a hub full of sopanified grease. You know, and he wants to hurl because of the stink. You know. Anyway, don't want to lose Curtis and Karen. Max Grant, Swan Valley. Max is still there, and he's getting pretty consistent on having the content coming out, plus doing work. You know, that stuff that makes supposed to make money happen. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but it's supposed to. It looks like Max has been getting some work, which is good, and I was intrigued watching him rebuild that power hacksaw. Now he's nearly done. And for Max, nearly done another 6 months when he's working on a machine. But he's nearly done with that Dean Smith and Grace lathe. One reason I like Max's channel is all the weird old stuff he has, fixes. I was one of those kids always taking things apart. Some appliance or whatever around the house died. Out come Wayne's tools. I'd at least know what was inside. That evening when I was 10, and I took the cover off Mom's 1950 vintage General Electric 2-slice toaster, and she was getting ready to toss it. I said, "Can I?" She said, "Sure. I'm going to get a new one tomorrow." I get in there. Test it a little bit more. All right. A little adjustment. Then I put that stainless steel. It was Art Nouveau. Art Deco. I think it was Art Deco, inspired with the airflow. You know, everything had to have zero drag cutting through the air. Toasters, coffee makers. I mean, I can understand it for an Electrolux to have to be, but a blender, toaster. Anyway, I put the cover back on. Called Mom in. "Here, Mom, watch this." Shh, shh. Boop. How you do that? I cleaned it. Did a little with the temperature control mounted on the chassis, not. She was going to buy a new toaster. Mom died owning that General Electric 1950 vintage 2-slice pop-up toaster. Now the General Electric hot dog cooker, that went away after one season. And you can probably guess why. Well, I'll tell you anyway. The hot dogs went between these sets of 2 prongs, sharp enough to penetrate the end of a hot dog. You put them on, and the next, and the next, and the next. You close the lid. That closed the switch. That allowed 110 volt, 60 cycle, 15 amp, usually for that kind of circuit. It would plug in, would be a 15 amp. Maybe 20 amp if you had a heavy appliance in the kitchen. But anyway, count to 45. And they're cooked. But Mom wasn't all that comfortable with it. No, she was not. It's like that little electric rotisserie. This was a mid-60s modern, the drip pan and the rectangular funnel to drip the meat juices down into the drip pan. And the arms come up, and there's a motor here. And you put the chicken or the roast or whatever on the spit. Turn it on. And all Mom have to do is take the meat off it when it's cooked. And it don't take more than 2 uses to figure out how long to leave something on for it to be cooked. But Mom didn't like it. She did not like it at all. There were too many places where dirt could hide. She loved her Pyrex coffee pot. Borosilicate glass, borosilicate handle held on by a stainless steel band. Borosilicate spout, stem, upside down funnel. Aluminum drip pan. Borosilicate liner clips into that. Borosilicate lid. 2 parts that weren't borosilicate. And you broke the stem. J.C. Penney, Montgomery Ward's, Sears, everyone had the parts. If they sold the coffee maker, they sold the parts. So you could get the stem, you could get that borosilicate ring, you could get the lid, you could get the handle. Yeah, I guess you could even get the metal parts if you mangled that aluminum. Right? I mean, they were good. Basic, simple, easy to keep clean. And you could see where any dirt was with that thing. Make my Auntie Kitty so happy because she was scrub happy. It had to be absolutely sterile and shining like the jeweler's display case. Of course, technology advances and they sell it to us, not because we need it, because the rich guy who invented it over there wants some money. And he don't care if it's good for me and you. He just wants our money. For years I used this countertop espresso makers, They got a flash boiler. And there were like two sizes of coffee ground cups for them. There's that one about that's big around. And then there's the one that was that big around. I always had the small ones. Just recently, well, it was Christmas actually, my wife gave me one of those aluminum 10-sided screws together stovetop espresso maker. And oh, the taste is superior to a Mr. Coffee espresso maker. As for steaming the milk, screw steaming the milk. White foam does not enthuse me. Okay. Cat, don't you knock stuff down there. My cat runt, like the smallest of the litter. She's pregnant again, and she's looking for some place to have the babies. You can have them in here, sweetheart. Yes, you can. You like that spot over in the corner, don't you? What can I say? Anyway, I got one of the aluminum screw together top and bottom half screw together stovetop espresso maker. I don't need to foam my milk. I just have this old china cup I half fill, put it in the nuke for a minute. That way I can make my espresso based cafe au lait. Hot, very strong coffee and hot milk. And I know why some Frenchman invented it. Because it kept the caffeine from eating his stomach lining. And also stopped the jitters. Yeah. Anyway, I paid $12 for it. Of course, it uses, the electricity for the electric range. A little bit more. But it makes the best tasting espresso. It's the simplest mechanism. It will never burn out unless I leave it on the top of the range with no water in it. Then the aluminum will melt around that heating element. Other than that, the one really big drawback is you have to wash it every time you use it. I don't mean refill the reservoir, or refill the coffee ground basket. Well, you got to take it apart, set the top aside for rinsing in a minute. Get the grounds cup out. Okay, the grounds cup is your basic funnel. It's got a piece of aluminum with the holes for the water to come up through, then up through the grounds, and up through the next screen, and up that post, and then down into the top. It's called a steam espresso maker. And if anyone is in contact with Thunderfoot, Dr. Mason, I would like you to chime in on this. The amount of water you put in the lower section of that stovetop espresso maker has a bit of effect on the temperature of the water going through your grounds and cascading out into the upper chamber. It's not really a chamber, it's like a coffee cup with a post coming up through it. Anyway, if you fill that lower chamber all the way up and don't leave room for a steam head, it'll start pushing water up the grounds cup stem earlier, because the water has no place to go and there's no room for steam at the top. So it pushes the water down and up the spout, through the grounds, up through that spout and cascade. A lower temperature would cause that water to rise up. If you have less water in there, leave it down a bit. It has more room at the top for a head of steam. Therefore, it'll take longer to build up the head of steam. And the water down here is going to be hotter because it's had more time to absorb BTUs, British thermal units. They teach everyone about British thermal units, you know. Everything's rated at British thermal units. Yeah. So anyway, I nuke for 1 minute my half a cup of milk. I've got the cup that the finished product's going into here, and over here is the coffee maker. Now it takes 6-7 minutes, depending on how much water I've got in the lower chamber, for me to pour the espresso on top of the hot milk, which I poured. I usually time it for a minute before the coffee's done. Even if I just nuke the milk 3 minutes into this process and let it sit there until I see it coming out the cascade, then pour the milk, and as soon as the cascade starts coming out white, you pull it off the heat, because you're down near the bottom. And also you can get spit that'll go horizontal, which is why that lid's there. But you can't see the cascade with the lid down. but still is the best coffee maker I've ever had. But if I'm going to make iced coffee, I got a Mr. Coffee. That's a generic now. Got a Mr. Coffee style drip coffee maker. I think it even says Mr. Coffee on it. But that's not important. I've had Musa, Braun, all kinds of weird names. You know, your Mr. Coffee style drip coffee maker, they're all generic. Yeah. I'm waiting with bated breath. My wife says smelly, but you know, whatever. Waiting with bated breath for the next season of Strange New Worlds. And in my opinion, if they want to keep this series going, what they need to do in season 3 is Captain Christopher Pike and the Enterprise go to Talos 4. And he meets Vina, who is every woman, if you catch my drift, you know, mind control. If they don't do Talos 4 in season 3 of Strange New Worlds, they're going to lose most of their viewers. Because most of their viewers are watching it because they want to see. They want. Or they want to watch Mr. Bohannon do it with the green girl. Arr. Arr. Arr, 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 arr. Yeah. That alone. 3-episode arc for that. Would not only save the season, could possibly pull in the new bodies while satisfying the old timers to carry 4th season, 5th season. Hey, I mean, Chris don't have to get burnt up right after Talos 4. As I recall, they promoted him to Admiral, and he's Admiral for a while. Then he got burnt up. Yeah. The Crispy Critters version of Christopher Pike in the chair. Dee 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 dee. I think I've wasted enough of your time. I'll be back next week with more ramblings. I might even show you something like mechanical or technical. I sure won't be behaving like Holly Hunter. And is she auditioning for OnlyFans foot fetish section? Well, she sure seems to like to put her tootsies in front of the camera. Anyway, good night from California. Stay safe. Don't burn up or get washed away by the floods.